Today we're working on my E70 X5. I'm showing you guys how to flush your brake fluid, and I'm showing you how to potentially flush your ABS pump in the event you service it. Either you crack a line off of it and you've introduced air, etc. But I want to preface this by letting you know that it was a bit of a learning experience. I'm leaving some extra information in this video so you can kind of get some takeaways, but ultimately what it boils down to is, on this car, if you want to bleed the brakes and you want to flush old fluid, you might as well just do it manually, either with a friend or the one-man brake bleeder method. Pump the brakes until the fluid looks clear and be done with it. You don't really need a laptop here. But I've left it all in, and I did end up using my laptop. Maybe it'll be for entertainment value, etc. But, you know, just wanted to put that in there before you guys watch the rest of this video. So thanks for watching. We're going to be tackling the brake fluid today. As you can see, I'm overdue, and I'm going to be flushing this at home, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Before anything, let's take a look at the condition of the fluid. Now your brake fluid reservoir is going to be in here. So you're going to grab a 13 mil socket and crack all these free and pull this cover off. So let's do that now. I'm just using a screwdriver with a 13 socket on the end. You just turn it a little bit, and then I'm going to lift up on this. Kind of tucks in underneath here, so you got to get it out of there. And this weather stripping here, you're going to want to lift up on it. And just be aware, as these cars age, these plastic pieces deteriorate, so take some care. I've already replaced mine because they were falling apart. So once you've removed that weather stripping, you gotta untuck it from around this hood strut here and get it out of your way. And now we can see the actual brake fluid reservoir. So here's the actual brake fluid. As you can see, super dark and nasty. Not supposed to be like that. So we're gonna need to flush this. And be careful with this. You don't want to get any of this on your paint because it can actually eat away at paint. So if you spill any, just wipe it up and don't let it get on any of your panels. Depending on if you have an impact gun to crack the bolts free, you may want to crack them free prior to lifting up the car. Otherwise, the wheel's just going to spin when you're trying to loosen the lug nuts. Now you want to get a jack stand and place it underneath. Should be able to make up my jack stand placement. It was right at the end of that control arm. So go down slow. Give the vehicle a quick rock back and forth to make sure you're in good shape. My car has air suspension, so it's auto leveling right now. So we'll just turn the wheel lightly. This makes things a bit easier when you're working up at the front end. And I'll show you my setup. So here's where we're going to be working. This is the bleed nipple. You're going to want to pull up on this cover here to expose the nipple. You can remove this pad wear holder just for now. Get it out of your way. I'm just going to remove this for now. Get it out of our way. So now you can see we're working right here. So we're going to want a couple things here. You're going to want an empty water bottle, and you want the lid to be there so you can poke a hole through here and pass the actual hose through. And you want one of these one-man brake bleeder kits. You can get these at Harbor Freight and whatnot. I got this in Canada at Princess Auto before I moved to the US, but you need one of these guys here. And let's show you how we'll set this up. So we're only really going to use this part here So I have this tubing here that I got at the auto parts store. What I want to do is open this up, and we want to be able to attach this to this. You know, you can even use like fish tank air tube, doesn't really matter. You're not really going to be using it after this. But you need to be able to join these together somehow. And I have this kit from the previous job. It's just a master cylinder bleeder kit. But really, I'm just trying to join those hoses together. So if you buy one of these kits, it comes with hosing and whatnot. You can just grab one of these to get the job done. But I'm gonna just sacrifice one of these guys here, cut it. As you can see, I can insert that end into here. And then I can insert this into that. There, I have a good junction now. It won't come apart easily. Kind of grabs on. So this is super long. I don't need it to be this long actually, but it's helpful. And the idea is you take your bottle and you make sure that you have enough of this, and you have to give yourself enough in length so that you can insert it onto the actual bleeder. This piece is designed to go right in there when you buy those one-man kits. Gives you a nice snug connection like that. And we need to have enough of this go all the way down into this bottle and sit near the base and kind of leave a bit of a coil so that it doesn't lift up. So it's got to make it to the bottom of the bottle. So that's my goal here now. I want that to not be under any tension. I want to be able to pass it through the bottle and leave a bit of a coil at the bottom of the bottle. So I'm going to leave it a little bit longer than is necessary, but gives me lots of breathing room. So I can have that sit at the bottom of the bottle. Now we got to poke a hole in here. So grab the drill, get your drill bits, and we'll look for one similar in size. I'm going to try this right here, 1/4 inch. We'll go after this bottle now. Try to go right in the center. Okay. Be careful when you're doing this. Good enough. We got our hole, and let's try passing this hose through that hole now. I'm going for a snug connection if possible. There. It goes right in and it's snug, but it's not kinking the line. As you can see, I'm yanking on this and torquing on it, but it's not coming undone from the caliper or from that joint I put in. Now, you want to test that enough of the hose makes it into the bottle. And you want it kind of waiting. You want the hose to make it right down to the bottom. I have it as low as it can go. The idea is you need to put some brake fluid in the base of it. I'm using some .4 brake fluid. We'll pour that into the base. Okay, now slide this down. And close it up. As you can see, I have the bottom of the hose submerged in fluid. We don't want to have to use too much here because we're wasting fresh fluid. And we'll reinsert here. So that looks like an 11 mil wrench. I'm going to 11 mil bleed nipple. I'm going to grab my line wrench. So I'm grabbing I have an 11 mil wrench here. I'll pass this end over. And put this back on. Now that we have that on there, there's no way for air to come back up that line because it's in the fluid. It's important that it stays submerged. What I plan on doing is initiating the bleed procedure via INPA. So I'm going to boot up my laptop here. I'm going to be using my K plus DCAN USB interface cable. So let's get this cable connected. Look for a light on the cable, and you're going to need to sit inside the car to do this. So a couple things have to happen. You're going to want to have a bunch of brake fluid around. I'll let you know exactly how much is required. And I'm even contemplating just flushing that whole reservoir just through this front wheel. I know there'll be a little bit of residual brake fluid at the other three wheels, but that will be crystal clear and 90% of it will have been flushed out. I'll drive on it for a week or two and then I'll do another flush here. I think that's way easier than going to every wheel to do a brake fluid flush. That's what I'm going to recommend here. So I'm going to get this out of the way. We'll just set a cloth down here. Set this over here. Okay. We're basically topped up, but I'm going to put just a bit more just to get it right to the brim. But first I'm going to make sure that I can get a successful connection to the car and initiate the bleed procedure as I was expecting. So let's go do that now. We'll put the key into the run position. Make sure your headlights are off so you don't kill the battery. Make sure your interior fan is off. And we'll load up INPA. I thought I could use INPA to do this, but it turns out that's not going to work for this chassis. I'm going into chassis, dynamic stability control. I can read air codes and whatnot and identify the module and everything, but when I go to the activate section, there is no DSC rework or bleeding procedure built into INPA for an E70. Now, I do have another software suite installed called DIS, which I will attempt now. So now I'm going to try switching over to DIS. I haven't used it in a while actually, but to do so I have to rename this to INPA. Your EDI ABAS directory, and then because they host the same different files but they use the same directory. So I'm going to run this file here. You'll have to go on Google and download DIS version 57 and you'll be able to download it, and there'll be a PDF walkthrough showing you how to set this up. So you have to host this file here. You have to run your diagnostic head emulator, and then you got to run your virtual machine because it runs in Linux. We're going to start this virtual machine. So I got DIS loaded up now. Going into diagnosis. We're going to go to X series. E70. Clicking no to that. It's a little slow, it takes some time, but you want to deselect all these options. So I'm going to deselect this and then reselect it, and it's saying should a test be carried out. I'm going to say yes. I don't have active front steering on this car. So now I'm going to select control unit functions, and then function selection should be under service functions here, under chassis. That's fine. These are both going to be no. Wheel slip control system. Bleed routine. And then I want to click on test schedule. You have to say yes there. Okay, so I hit test schedule and it pushed me back to the main menu and I had to just redo all those steps. So I'm going to click test schedule again. Now, bleed routine is highlighted. And I'll have to go over to this arrow here. The bleed routine is started in the next steps. Follow test instructions, it says. So I'm going to go again. And it's activating my ABS pump. Let's go back out here now. And we have the reservoir full. So we're good there. We have confirmation that the hose is below the level of the fluid. So we're good there. I can open this up, make sure this is tight and all your connections are good. I'm gonna crack this bleed nipple. I think I gotta do this two-handed, but I'll be right back with you. So I managed to crack that free. Carefully. Got some fluid coming out. You can see there. It's pushing the air that's in the line through. And no air is going back into the actual car. I'm good here. So I'm going to reinitiate that bleed procedure with DIS and let's see what happens with that model. As you can see, the dirty fluid is coming out and no air is going back in. So I'm going to fill up the reservoir. It's a little different than in my E90, but it lowered it a bit, so I'll fill it up a bit. And we'll keep doing this until that starts coming out more clear. It appears my battery's getting low, so I'm going to put it on a battery charger. Alright, I'm now connected to a battery charger. And I'm going to continue on. So I'm going to go key on now and continue on. I'll leave the camera rolling, monitoring the bottle. So it's a slow process. I'm just basically coming back to here and just clicking number 1 to repeat activation and clicking this green arrow here and it does it. It's filling up with some dirty fluid now, and the level's dropping probably just a few mm every time. So So I'd be a little concerned regarding the battery draining doing this, but keep it on a charger, and I'm gonna keep cycling this through, and I'll let you know approximately how many times I've done it. I was trying to use my laptop to have the ABS pump actuate and actually push all the fluid from the reservoir down through the caliper into this bottle. And as you can see, I was able to do that, except it doesn't actuate for very long. It's tough on the battery, and after about 4 or 5 cycles it starts to drain down the battery. So I put my car on a battery charger. Looking at this bottle here, every time you actuate it, it probably drops about a 1/4 inch or so. So you'd have to actuate probably 10 times to empty that bottle. So that's not gonna work out here. I'm gonna do manual bleeding, where I'm gonna actually just pump the brake with this open, and then eventually use the software to push the fluid out of the ABS pump. I've already started to purge the ABS pump. That way we're flushing the complete system. So now I'm just going to show you me manually bleeding this. So we're going to crack this bleed nipple open. I have the bleed nipple cracked open. I'm going to start pumping the brakes just to push fluid out. And we'll pay attention to how clean this fluid is and what's happening with that bottle. I did about 3 pumps and it dropped about a 1/4 inch in the bottle. So I'm just going to top that bottle off now, reservoir. So I've gotten to the point where the fluid in the reservoir is crystal clear. So I know some people use a turkey baster to actually suck out the fluid, but it's not a very big reservoir, and I just wanted to properly flush out anything that was old and nasty in there. Alright guys, as a warning, you want to make sure that the cap of your bottle isn't completely tightened up, because that's such a snug fit that it actually builds up air pressure and compresses the air, and then it will actually try to push the fluid back out. So when I popped that off, the actual bleed nipple started to spill out, made a bit of a mess. Now, one thing that's become very obvious here is doing the method with the computer is kind of a waste of time on this car. You're not going to really benefit too much. The only reason that bleed procedure is in DIS is so that in the event that you actually change your control unit altogether, the actual ABS module, which I think is over here. It's all the way over here. That's why I'm not so conscious about which wheel I started bleeding from. I'm using the driver's side front. It's not like it's over there and that's the closest wheel. I think the way the hoses are run, that's probably where you want to start anyway. But the idea is, if you change this control module itself, then normally you have no way to push the air from the module out into the lines and then continue to bleed them via the brake pedal inside the car. But in this case here, we're not changing that. You know, it doesn't hurt that we were able to push any dirty fluid out from inside the pump. That's great, but it's not that critical. So you're probably going to want to skip the laptop portion. It's not like on an E90 where you can use IMPA and do like a really thorough rework per wheel and just basically purge that entire reservoir per wheel and then just get everything to be crystal clear. It's a little different on this car. So You can't use IMPA, you can use DIS. This video will be handy for someone that's changing this and they want a good way to bleed out the pump, but it's not going to be a good way to flush your brake fluid. So at least you can watch this video. I'm leaving everything in, you know, for entertainment value basically, but really a manual bleed, as you do on any other car, will pretty much get the job done for you anyway. Now, to call it good, I'm going to go to the rear right wheel now and just use the software to flush this through that ABS pump over there and down out through that wheel, just maybe once or twice until it starts to look a little cleaner, and I'll call it good. I'll consider like an 80% flush. And if you guys want to, you can do every wheel. You didn't really have to watch this video to see how to bleed your brakes, but it doesn't hurt. Ultimately, takeaways from this video are, don't bother with your laptop, but if you did change your ABS pump and you want to know how to bleed your brakes properly, now you have the combination of using your laptop to push the fluid out of the actual control module and then continue to carry the air bubbles away via using your brake pedal inside the car. It's actually the next day, but I just left the laptop in the same setting it was before. As long as I don't exit out of DIS, I can just continue on, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to put the key on and we'll crack this free now. Okay, we still have some fluid waiting there. Overall, the level of this is higher than the bottle, so it's not going to push anything back in. The cap of that is loose enough that it will release air. So let's initiate the procedure. As you can see, that looks pretty dirty, but I'll keep doing it until it starts to look a bit cleaner. And I want to go a little bit below the max level of the bottle, that way I can just be done with this and top it up one last time. And this is ensuring that now that the bottle has clean fluid in it, the reservoir, it's passing that clean fluid through the actual ABS pump. And my battery is in good shape, so it's been charging all night, so I'm going to just keep doing it until that starts to look a bit cleaner, and then we'll call it good. So it's going to take too long now. We've purged the actual clean fluid from the reservoir through the ABS pump, and now I'm just going to do manual bleeding by just pressing the brake pedal inside the car until it looks a bit cleaner, and then we'll be done. I'm satisfied with that. That's pretty clean. Should be able to pop this off and have it drain into the bottle. We're good. So if I didn't spill any of this fluid, it probably would have been full by now, or even I would have had to empty it a little bit, just to give you guys an idea. So I basically put about that much fluid in the system. That includes flushing the ABS pump, the front left, rear right. I started at the front left because the ABS pump's over on the passenger side anyway. And I probably got about 80% of the fluid out now. So I replace this cap here. I'll put the wheel back on and we'll summarize. Okay, so we're all back together. Car's level on the ground. And I'm ready for a final fill. It's always a good sign when you need the actual light to be able to figure out the level of the fluid because it's so clean now. If I were to take it away, it's not that easy to tell. You can still tell, but it's very clean. So I'd say mission accomplished. I didn't go for 100% every last drop, you know. In fact, I were able to flush the pump, and also these two corners of the car is good enough for me. Like I said, if you want to follow this DIY, just do the other two wheels if you really want to be thorough. So we're going for a final fill. We'll get it right to the max line. There you go, on the money. And if you guys end up with any leftover, it's pretty much garbage because you can't have this stuff sitting on the shelf. It absorbs moisture from the air. So here's some of what was removed from the car. As you can see at the top, the cleaner fluid is sitting suspended above the dirty fluid. It's definitely time to change it. That's the light on the other side of it, which is pretty nuts. You can see through it here, can't see anything here. So it's completely gone. Should have been done a while ago, but you know, I had meant to do it myself, so it took me a little time to get to it. And like I said, I'm going for like 80% flush here. I may even just follow up in 6 months, do a quick flush again. Just since I did the 2 wheels, I didn't want to do all 4 wheels. My goal was to get that reservoir and all the lines leading up to the ABS pump and the majority of the lines flushed. Now, there's a line going from here to this wheel. It's going to have a little bit of dirty fluid in it. It's going to mix in, and then there's a line going to the back of the car. Anyway, like I said, I'm just doing this as preventive maintenance, and I want to be able to clear that service indicator. Last thing to do would be to reset the service indicator on the dash. I still have a good tight pedal. So we're going to clear, press and hold here until that's the one that we got to reset. Press and hold, it's going to ask to reset. You got to do it right away. Press and hold, and then press and hold after reset. And there you go, reset. Now, we're good. Brake fluid is good for quite a while, a couple of years or so. I was hoping it was going to be like my E90 where I could use IMPA and do a really thorough DSC rework. Unfortunately, that is not possible on this car, and if you do want to bleed the ABS pump, you just have a quick cycling of the pump to push the air out of all the solenoids, and then you're supposed to carry on and just manually bleed the brakes, kind of old school. So you're better off, if you want to flush the fluid on this car, you're probably better off just doing it the old school way, manually. Either have a friend pump the brakes and hold, or do the one-man brake bleeder method like what I show, using that bottle, and just flush out as much as you can, and then maybe follow up with it a couple weeks later, and you'll pretty much get all the fluid that's nasty out of the system. But in the event that you're changing your ABS pump and you're looking for a video on a way to actuate the pump and purge the air after servicing it, you can use this video. So thanks for watching and good luck. Wow.